Welcome back, and well, shots fired. Ethereum won't survive, according to the Cardano founder. In today's video, we're going to be exploring why Charles Hoskinson, the founder of Cardano, believes that Ethereum is not going to survive. What we're also going to do is understand a little bit more about the Ethereum Layer 2 ecosystem, and we're also going to directly compare Ethereum versus Cardano in all the metrics on chain to understand, is Cardano better? Is Ethereum going to survive? And what in the Cardano is Charles Hoskinson talking about? Don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up. Also hit that subscribe button. We upload every single day on this channel to bring you the latest happening in the financial world. Nothing I say is financial advice. Do your own research. Let's get right into today's topic. So we know very often Charles will throw things out there, and some of this is to kind of spark conversation, and some of this is to, I guess, market Cardano, keep Cardano in the top of everyone's mind. But some of what he says does have credence, and some of the issues that he calls out with other ecosystems does have, some merit. A lot of people don't like Cardano, don't like Charles, and just ignore everything he's saying. But let's understand a little bit more about this and see if what Charles is saying is accurate. Will Ethereum survive? During a recent Ask Me Anything, Cardano's Charles Hoskinson predicted that Ethereum would not be able to survive over the next decade. He said, quote, "So I don't think Ethereum will survive, more than 10 years to 15 years. He predicted that users will eventually migrate to other places. He even compared Ethereum to BlackBerry, the once dominant smartphone maker that went extinct due to the success of Apple's iPhone. I don't know that it's still a success, but we'll just leave that there. Anyway, according to Hoskinson, the Ethereum Foundation did three things wrong. First, he claims that Ethereum has the wrong protocols. He said, quote, "They have the wrong accounting model, they have wrong virtual machine, and they have the wrong consensus model. The current protocol that Ethereum has for proof of stake is wrong," according to Hoskinson. So everything's wrong, Charles? I mean, come on. But anyway, let's kind of break it down, right? So wrong accounting model. We know that Cardano uses what's called the EUTXO model, the extended unspent output transactions. That's basically what EUTXO is. And so Charles has been talking about this. The Cardano Foundation has been, the Cardano community has been talking about this for quite a while. I don't necessarily know that Ethereum's is wrong. I mean, Ethereum has worked essentially flawlessly for its existence, right? It has had issues, but so has every other major chain, including Cardano. The wrong virtual machine. Well, we have seen even as of recently that I think the title of the video, hold on, let me pull it up. It may already be out. I'm pretty sure it's out already. But the video is called Ethereum to Copy Cardano. And the thumbnail says something like Ethereum is replicating Cardano. And in that video, I would definitely recommend going and watching it, and also subscribing to this channel. That way you never miss any of these new videos. But in that video, I talk about the new proposal from Vitalik Buterin to implement a new kind of virtual machine type of language for programming. And Charles, I forgot what it's called, but Charles actually spoke up and said that that would be a very good move for Ethereum because Cardano is already using that kind of technology, and hence the Ethereum is replicating Cardano. Now I don't know if they're actually going to implement it or not, but that was a conversation that came up more recently. And in terms of the consensus model, I mean, we'll get into that in a minute. Charles also criticized Ethereum's slashing economics and layer 2s, which are taking away activity from the main chain. Yes, that is the actual point of layer 2s. And by the way, I'm going to be later in this specific video, I'm going to actually be comparing the metrics of Cardano with one of the premier layer 2s built on Ethereum. So based on what Charles is saying, this takes away activity from the main chain. Yes, that's the idea of layer 2s. It takes away the processing needed so that the main chain can be the point of finality, right? The main consensus mechanism, where it's similar to kind of Bitcoin's Lightning Network, right? It's a separate network built on top of Bitcoin that can help transactions process faster and therefore allow more people to utilize the ecosystem of Ethereum. Hoskinson described layer twos as parasitic, echoing the criticism of Solana founder who also does not like layer twos. I think we did a video on that as well. The layer twos will continue to suck all the alpha out of the main chain, according to Charles. He said people will stop fighting and it will be harder and harder for Vitalik to hold it together. Lastly, Cardano co-founder up-ended on that Ethereum does not have a robust on-chain governance system that would be needed for efficiently solving these issues. I would say that's probably true. There isn't like a voting mechanism, but I would also say that on Cardano's side, the voting mechanism is so complicated and so complex that even I would imagine even PhD scientists over at Internet Computer and Dfinity would probably not even be able to figure out what the hell Cardano is doing with governance. So there is the way that Ethereum does things versus Cardano is very different. I mean, we know this. Cardano takes their time. They want to research everything. They want to test everything a bazillion times. And meanwhile, Ethereum just goes. And Vitalik's kind of mindset from what we've seen previously is release it, let it have its issues, and we'll fix it in the moment. Because if you're trying to perfect everything, nothing is ever going to be 100% perfect, right? There's going to be flaws or issues or things that come up in any kind of situation. I mean, you call a customer service number and they're like, oh, well, we have this new AI that's going to help you out. And then you tell the AI, yes, I have a problem with X. And they're like, oh, you're calling to pay your bill? And you're like, no, I'm not calling to pay my bill. They're like, oh, you want to change your information? It's like, no. Oh, you want to cancel service? We're canceling your service. It's like, no, that's not what I want to do. Speak to an agent. Thanks for calling. And then they hang up. It's like, that was not better customer service. But anyway, that's kind of Ethereum's path. Now, here's the deal. There is something to say that newer chains will come along with better technology, faster technology, and will solve a lot of the problems that Ethereum currently has. But the same could be said for Cardano. The same could be said for Solana. The same could be said for Tron, Base. I mean, we see this occurring time and time again. We see older or legacy chains are trying to achieve something, and then another chain just launches with that technology already deployed. And it's much easier to do that because you don't have to, test new implementations that could effectively break legacy dApps or legacy smart contracts or legacy ledger inputs by upgrading the system. So there is something to say for what Charles is saying. But if Ethereum doesn't survive because of these issues, Cardano is definitely not surviving because of these issues as well, because Cardano has not gotten the traction that other chains have. And the data is right here. And by the way, a lot of Charles's criticisms are not he's not the only one that thinks this, right? There's a lot of criticism about Ethereum. There's a lot of criticisms about Solana, and there's a lot of criticisms about Cardano. The way that I view it is these developers should be looking at the criticisms to see how they can effectively change their protocols so that they don't have those issues. But then typically it's just, no, our system's better than theirs. Their system sucks. Stop using it, as we're seeing with the layer 2 conversation. Because guys, again, the Solana co-founder said that layer 2s should not be the thing. And now Charles is saying Ethereum layer 2s should not be a thing. Because they're saying, well, Ethereum can't handle it, so we shouldn't have layer 2s. It's like, no. The problem was Ethereum couldn't handle it. So the solution was to create layer 2s to take some of that strain away from Ethereum. This is smart. This is how networks work. This is how large corporations, when they become so large, they start kind of making sub companies, right? So you have an umbrella company, and then you have a company under it, a subsidiary, to help take some of that load off of the main organization so that each one can do its individual specialized thing. It's the same thing in crypto, where some of these crypto assets, they're not here just for smart contracts. Like XRP, that's not a smart contract platform. That's not even what they're trying to achieve. And so comparing XRP to Ethereum would not be a fair comparison, because they're two different chains trying to achieve completely different things. That's like saying, well, I have an Italian restaurant, and our Italian restaurant is better than that Chinese restaurant. It's like, I would imagine they're very different. So if I'm going to get Italian at a Chinese restaurant, it's probably going to taste better at the Italian restaurant, right? Same thing in these blockchains. They all are trying to achieve different things. I mean, they're all trying to get as much market share, so they're trying to do many different things. But this is where layer twos fix a lot of the issues because, again, you have a single point of failure if everything is running on one chain. And if that chain cannot process transactions, we saw this with Solana just a few years ago. Solana blockchain kept going down over and over and over and over. And why did it keep going down? Because it couldn't handle the throughput. Now, they were able to fix that, and we haven't had any outages since then. But that was going on for like over a year. And so they had to figure out how to fix the main chain instead of, okay, let's offload some of this to the layer two. Layer one is still fine. Let's fix the layer two. Anyway, a former Polygon executive and the current Avail co-founder believes that Ethereum's layer 2 approach equals many high throughput chains. And I sure as hell agree with that. So in an interview with Cointelegraph, this co-founder of Avail and also Polygon blockchain acknowledged that Ethereum and high throughput competitors with monolithic architecture are fundamentally different products. However, Ethereum's choice to scale through a plethora of layer 2 solutions gives it an overlooked quality. He said, quote, "The underappreciated beauty of this roll-up centric roadmap architecture is that it allows multiple teams to experiment with different execution environments and different block times. This allows a diverse set of high throughput sidechains to appear rather than just one singular architecture on any monolithic layer 1. However, without true interoperability, switching between layer 2s will remain as complex as bridging assets between different blockchain ecosystems altogether." His perspective runs contrary to many critics of Ethereum's layer 2 approach who say the network scaling solutions silo liquidity and are ultimately corrosive to the base layer. Ethereum critics argue that layer 2s are one of the primary causes of Ethereum's poor price performance in the last year. Okay, listen, Ethereum has underperformed. The layer 2s have underperformed. They've underperformed the likes of Solana. But let's remember, I want you to remember the data. So all Solana has given us this cycle, all they have gifted to the world was meme coins. And personally, I could do without all that bullshit. I could do without all of it. Because meme coins were just value extraction. And so if you're saying that somebody launching an Argentine meme coin that the president said he didn't have anything to do with, and he literally extracted $100 million, not the president, the developer, extracted $100 million from that one meme coin in like 24, 48 hours, he said in an interview. $100 million. If you're saying that we need that on Ethereum, get the F out of here. Because Ethereum, it may be underperforming because the scammers are not on Ethereum right now. The money extractors are not on Ethereum. Think about it, guys. The meme coin craze, not one celebrity was launching on Ethereum. They were all launching on Solana. So that you want that grifting on Ethereum? That's what you consider value? Absolutely insane. And because that's not long-term growth. This is the same thing I just did in another video where Google is talking about $70 billion in 2025 in stock buybacks. So they're literally, they could literally be the top 5 holder of Bitcoin in the world and secure potentially their bag for the next 5-10 years. But instead, they're taking that money and instead of maybe putting it towards developing new technology, right? Google is just taking that money and throwing it at the stock market. They're taking $70 billion and throwing it at the stock market. That's wasted money. That's wasted research, wasted talent, wasted development. Think about what all that money could have built instead of just throwing it at the market to keep your stock up. Same thing with Solana. What has everybody on the comments who has argued this point on my videos saying, Cryptoviser, you just hate Solana. It's like, but it's not that I hate it. They have not given us anything this cycle besides meme coins. Period. And when we talk about throughput and we talk about transaction volume, Let's just compare Cardano to Ethereum. So, this is one of Charles's points. So let's understand this. So this is over the last 30 days. Okay. This comparing the top line is Ethereum, the bottom is Cardano. So real-time transactions per second. Ethereum transactions per second is 41 times more than Cardano. Polygon, layer 2, built on Ethereum. Polygon, in my view, is the premier layer 2 in all of crypto. Cardano transaction per second is 99% less than Polygon. So the layer 2 and the layer 1 have more real-time transaction per second than Cardano. Max transactions per second over the last 100 blocks. This says max transaction per second represents the highest number of transactions per second achieved by a blockchain over 100 consecutive blocks. Ethereum max transactions per second is 5 times more than Cardano's maximum transactions per second. So you can see here maximum transactions per second in the last 100 blocks on Cardano was 11.6. Ethereum was 62.3. Polygon. Cardano max transaction per second is 97% less than Polygon. Polygon's transaction throughput is 429 transactions per second. Cardano's is 11. And so what I'm seeing here so far is that the layer 2s not only perform better than the layer 1s, but they perform better than Cardano layer 1. And so how can you be criticizing a layer 2 and saying that it's not going to survive when it has better metrics so far? Total transactions. Ethereum's total transactions are 41 times more than Cardano. 41 times more. This says over the given period. So this is over the last 30 days. Cardano has had just under 1 million transactions. Ethereum has had 37 million transactions. Total transactions on Polygon versus Cardano. Cardano transactions is 99% less than Polygon. Polygon had 91 million transactions. Cardano had basically just about 1 million transactions. And so again, so far, the layer 2 is performing better than the layer 1. So if you have something that's better than, like if you have, think about like, forget it. You guys get it. This is like almost common sense, right? I would imagine. Anyway, let's continue figuring this out. So block time. Ethereum block time is 40% less than Cardano block time. So Ethereum's is 12 seconds, Cardano's is 20 seconds. And finality, Ethereum finality is 8 times more than Cardano. So whoa, we got a winner here. Cardano finalizes transactions in 2 minutes and Ethereum takes 16 minutes. But let's take a look at Polygon. Same situation here. Cardano finality is 53% less than Polygon. So Polygon is 4 minutes. Cardano is 2 minutes. So Cardano wins again. Nakamoto coefficient, they're coming soon. So these are new data that's going to be coming. So yeah, I mean, when we just do a comparison on the base metrics, and I know there's going to be Cardano maximalists that say, but Cryptoviser, Cardano transactions are different. But we're talking about finality, guys. We're also talking about block time. We're talking about max transactions per second, what the throughput is. And we know, I've said this years ago, that Cardano should do a stress test where basically they set up a system to just run as many transactions through the system as possible to see what Cardano can actually do. Because this is one of the main criticisms a lot of people have about Cardano is that it has slow transaction or low transaction throughput. And the Cardano community constantly argues that point. Why not do a stress test? Show us the actual number of transactions that you could put through before the chain has an issue. They haven't done that to date. And so we're still at these very, very low transaction throughput. Meanwhile, Polygon and Ethereum, in many aspects, well, Polygon in almost every aspect, but Ethereum in many aspects still perform better than Cardano. And so over the long term, to believe that Ethereum won't survive And by the way, I don't see anything here that says that Charles said, well, Ethereum won't survive and Cardano will survive. So maybe he's saying that all of these legacy chains will not be around in 10 to 15 years. And that's totally possible because the newer chains, like right now, there's the competition between Solana and Ethereum. Solana is a newer chain compared to Ethereum, but is it going to be able to achieve what Ethereum has achieved in terms of growth, usage, backend integrations, layer two integrations, interoperability bridges, connectivity with the rest of ecosystem on chain and off chain, institutional investment, investment from the president's kind of administration and his team? I don't know. I mean, this is still up in the air. We see a lot of money flowing to Solana, but is it enough? And not only is it enough, but is it productive money? Because so far, again, all they've gifted to us this cycle is meme coins. Cardano really hasn't gifted us much just yet. I know they have some things kind of planned for upcoming launches or releases, but I don't know if that's going to do it, right? I don't know if it's going to be enough to pump Cardano to all-time record highs. I don't know. And it's not just Cardano, it's a lot of these other legacy chains. This is where we have to be very strategic in what we're investing in, why we're investing in it, understand the protocols, what's built on the chain, how much usage is on the chain. Because at the end of the day, I look at Polygon and all the layer twos built on Ethereum with Ethereum as part of the Ethereum ecosystem. So if Ethereum succeeds, everybody succeeds. And so you have kind of more opportunities to succeed when you have multiple chains built on top of the main chain. The main chain we know is going to succeed based on the throughput, the transactions, the constant development, and all of that. Just because short-term price activity doesn't match people's expectations doesn't mean that the valuation isn't there. I mean, Ethereum is still the #1 DeFi platform in the world, the #1 smart contract platform in the world, the most developed platform in the world, the most used back-end integration platform in the world when we're talking about blockchain, the most interested outside of Bitcoin from an institutional level, from a banking level, from a DeFi level. I mean, I can keep going on and on and on. Everything else at this point is still just a conversation. And so, is Ethereum going to be around in 10 to 15 years? I would imagine the answer is going to be yes. And the layer twos, while they may morph and change and become a different version of what the layer twos are today, I do think that the layer twos are helping to build out Ethereum. And instead of trying to reinvent the blockchain, which is what it sounds like developers want Ethereum to do, and say, no, 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 just scrap everything and just restart over and don't have layer twos. It's like, that doesn't make sense. And the likes of Solana, as the throughput continues to expand, right? Right now, Solana throughput is about 5,000 transactions per second. But if usage on the chain continues to grow and they outpace that, are they going to be able to handle the increased throughput, potentially tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of transactions every single second? I don't know that they're going to be able to do that on their current infrastructure and technology. Cardano, same thing. We just talked about Cardano still never did a stress test, and they can only do 1 transaction per second on average. So if we don't do a stress test now, when are you going to do the stress test? When these companies adopt the technology, it's going to be too late, because then you're going to have to develop the fix, and the fix may actually be a layer 2. So let me know what you guys think about Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson's points that Ethereum won't survive. Do you think that that's going to happen? Do you think that Cardano won't either? Or like, where do you see this all going in 10 to 15 years? Let me know. And also, don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications. And if you like these comparisons of going through the metrics from one chain to another, let me know down below in the comments, and we will definitely do more comparison videos. But for today, invest responsibly, do your own research, and crypto on.